stakeholders, guest speakers, panelists, government functionaries, facilitators, sponsors, members of the academia, and some students converged on Eco Hotels and Suites, Victoria Island, Lagos, on the 1st of August to the 3rd of August 2022 for the Society of Petroleum Engineers Nigerian Annual International Conference and Exhibition 2022 edition, with a theme tagged Global Transition to Renewable and Sustainable Energy and the Future of Oil and Gas in Africa. Nice featured panel sessions, paper presentations, exhibitions, among others. Speaking at the NICE 2022 edition was an array of panelists drawn from the energy sector, both locally and internationally, and government functionaries were also on ground as panelists. One of the vibrant and formidable regulatory government agencies in the energy sector of Nigeria is the NCDMB, which was also represented on the panel session by the Executive Secretary of the NCDMB, that is the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Engr.Simbi Wabote. It has been in the forefront of promoting the local content in the E&G sector of Nigeria in order to create more value retention in country since the NOGIC Act came into being. Presently, it's on record that the NCDMB has been phenomenal in the scheme of things in the energy, oil and gas sector of Nigeria. The NCDMB, under the steer of its Executive Secretary Engr.Simbi Wabote, has grown in leaps and bounds. Wabote has been recognized with numerous groundbreaking achievements and revolutionary initiatives deployed for the promotion of local content in the Nigerian energy, oil and gas industry landscape and its linkage sectors. You will recall that in 2017, the NCDMB developed a 10-year strategic roadmap with the goal of achieving 70% Nigerian content in the oil and gas sector, which the board has brought different initiatives spanning from gas utilization programs to modular refinery partnerships. The NCDMB Boss was also a panelist at the NICE 2022 panel session.
One of the reasons why we advocate for legislation to be put in place at moments like this is because we have seen in many areas, and in one particular area, what legislation can do and has done for us as a people. And I'm speaking of in the space of local content development. And our next panelist that I'm going to bring on board oversees that for us as an industry and as a people. Under his steer in 2017, the NCDMB developed a 10-year strategic roadmap with the key objective of achieving 70% Nigerian content in the oil and gas industry, create 300,000 direct jobs, establishment of major fabrication facilities in country, and establishment of manufacturing hubs in country for the manufacture of equipment, components, and accessories required by the oil and gas industry and its linkage sectors. Today, in furtherance of the 10-year strategic roadmap, the board has developed different initiatives that is catalyzing industrialization of the oil and gas industry and its linkage sectors. These initiatives span from gas utilization programs to modular refinery partnerships and green local service companies. Renowned and recognized locally and globally, he is a recipient of very many awards. A few of them would be the Global Local Advocacy Award for the most outstanding transformational leader in Nigeria's public sector space in 2019, and most recently, Vanguard newspapers awarded him Regulator of the Year. I could go on and on, but please join me in welcoming the game changer himself, Engr.Simbi Wabote, FNSE, FIPS, Executive Secretary, NCDMB. And we're getting set to commission one of those industrial parks in country, somewhere in Emilia, Bayelsa State. That truly deserves a remarkable applause and commendation to the board led by him. Give them a round of applause, please. Thank you very much.
It's about human capacity development targeted at ensuring that the new generation or the next generation of energy engineers that we produce have the right balance between fossil fuels and renewable energy. Yeah? So I get that question a lot from young people. What should they do next? Because they keep hearing this story. There's tension about whether they should continue studying geology and petroleum engineering or whether they should reskill and go to some other industry. That's number one. So it's around human capacity development. The other one is also something I hear from the service companies, especially the Nigerian service companies under PETA. They are worried about two critical things. One is about the fact that as investment dries up in the upstream oil and gas company, it has a direct impact on their ability to survive. Barely survive, that's even where they are right now, let alone sustain growth. The next one is around all the noise about the transition. What is the advice of NCDMB, who predominantly have been in the driving seat of local content development in the oil and gas industry? What's the advice of NCDMB to these service companies who also are under the same kind of tension as the students I talked about and the young people I talked about what to do next? Simple.
Thank you, Chike. If you realize, when I was called up to sit down, I had to count the chairs. You were supposed to be here, but I knew you were the moderator and I wanted you to be in the middle, so that there is a balance, both right and left, and I think I achieved that. Secondly, you started by saying the question will be attacked. I remember in secondary school I played defense. So while you are attacking, I'm going to defend. So that you know that's where I stand with regards to this issue that we are discussing. I know you asked those three questions, but I think it's important that I also put my message across before I delve into them. While I do that, some of the questions might be answered as we speak. Let me thank the Society of Petroleum Engineers for this invitation and also the opportunity to speak and be on the panel with most of my colleagues here. Really appreciate that. And again, the topic before us is sustainable energy transition strategy in Africa, the role of the legislative framework and investment programs. I think it's very germane. If I address some of the points that my brother Bala raised in his presentation, very succinct, just like Oxen said, captured it in very few slides. If I delve into the legislative bit a bit, if we continue to have these discussions on legislative framework without driving the narrative, we will not go anywhere as a country, Nigeria. And I think within this hall, I see the people that can drive that legislative framework. If we sit back and allow the energy transition advocates to capture the narratives, they will be the one to draft the framework for our legislators in the National Assembly to start discussions. And I'm sure those who started the discussion on PIB 15 years ago will barely witness, because we were talking, they then drove the narrative. Hence for 15 years, we couldn't pass an act up until last year. So I think it is important that, like Bala has said with his presentation, and especially the NNPC Limited, to drive that framework establishment as quickly as possible, in conjunction with the people seated in this room. My short opening remarks, I would like to provide the following brief perspectives on energy transition. and this perhaps to the younger ones who are afraid. Energy transition is not a new phenomenon. It has been there even before I was born, and even before some of us here. And for generations past, as we move from biomass to coal to oil and gas and to renewable energy as the latest form of energy of interest currently. So it's not a new phenomenon. It's been with us for a very long time. For that question about the service providers, it is important for them to know that the Stone Age did not disappear because of lack of stones. Stones still existed, but because people refused to adapt to changes, that was how the Stone Age withered away. So I believe that the service providers will begin to think that this is perhaps real. But in the same context, when you look at the various sustainable development goals, E is environment, S is social, and I'm sure they arranged it that way because of ease of reading it. If not for me, it would have been SEG, not ESG. Because first, while the environment is very important, no doubt about it, the existence of human being within the environment itself is more important. Because if we lay emphasis on the environment and we all disappear, the environment will remain there. And we that are within the environment will disappear before the environment. So I think we need to understand this. And I think it was one president of America who, when he was asked to sign the Kyoto Protocol, I think it was George Bush, he refused to sign the Kyoto Protocol. He said, people have to survive before the environment itself. But if we lay emphasis on the other hand, how many people do we want on planet Earth at the end of the day? So he refused to sign it for a very long time before they got into this so-called COP26 that happened. That's why I'm saying I'm playing defense. Point number 2, the world has never really transited completely out of one form of energy into the other, but has always moved from one dominant form of energy to another, while the rest remains in the mix. And that is a fact. And if you go back in history on the reason why the transition usually takes a very long time from one form of energy to the other, some of it lasted for almost 100 years, that transition. If you look at when we moved from biomass to coal, donkey years, centuries ago, was because of the Industrial Revolution that came in Britain, where they invented the locomotive and also cars, where they were using steam cars, steam engines to run cars for a very long time. And then of course people did research and discovered that coal was even more efficient in terms of producing the steam to run those locomotives. So they moved from that to the next form of fuel. So I am not surprised that the jet age today is driving us to the 4th industrial revolution, where we are beginning to talk about the energy transition in itself. The third point I wanted to make, the dominant form of energy in any society is largely a reflection of this technological development, as well as source of energy as a natural endowment. I think this is very important. For example, a country blessed with hydrocarbon resources requires the technological know-how to develop and utilize the resources, otherwise it lies fallow. Today, if you go to the North Sea, the hydrocarbon that you have in the North Sea is depleted. It probably does not exist anymore. And if you go to other countries where they had hydrocarbon, today they are not finding anything. So what are they doing? Using their technological know-how to change that narrative on which direction they want to go. Well, what are we doing in Africa? We're very much in a haste to abandon our God-given resources. That's why I like Bala's presentation. The discussion is not about how we want to catch up with them. It is more about how we want to develop our natural resources for our existence. And it has become an existential imperative for us. If we don't learn, as at today, there's no way we are going to learn anymore as we continue this journey. The fourth point, the latest drive towards energy transition is underpinned by the need for us to practice local content. And I think that addresses some of the questions you're asking. Many of the European and Western countries would rather utilize their technological advancement to develop alternative forms of energy rather than rely on other nations for their energy needs. And I've said that because those forms of energy that they had in the past that had endeared their development to this level have all depleted. And it is Africa today where everybody or every country in Africa, almost every country in Africa, have discovered that natural resources. I remember 15 years ago, if you put up the oil and gas map here, you will see perhaps 4 countries where hydrocarbon is discovered. But today, put it up, almost all the countries in Africa you have hydrocarbon. And the discussion is now changing for us to abandon that natural resources. Regarding the aspect of the topic on legislative framework for sustainable energy transition in Africa, it is important for African countries, particularly Nigeria, to put in place set of laws that enhance the development and utilization of the various forms of energy within their borders. They must see energy transition as a means to practice effective local content to meet their energy needs. The need to include green energy in the mix of source of energy in Africa is a good one, but commitments must be measured and paced at the right level across countries, regions, and continents. No form of energy should be demonized against the other, as nature has put it in place various sources of energy unique to every locality. Today, if you talk about even the degradation of some of the byproducts of the so-called fossil fuel, the question is, eventually it will degrade, but it is the time allotted to every byproduct that extends that process of degradation. And it doesn't happen overnight. And that is what we are facing today. Investment programs to connect African countries via infrastructure, finance, mega processing plants, research and development, technology innovation, and human capacity development are also very important to ensure Africa meets the energy needs of the people. I am delighted at the various initiatives being put in place across the various institutions in Africa, such as Apple, Exim-Bank, African Development Bank, and others. At NCDMB, we, focusing on us, we have also been deliberate in the various programs we put in place to develop local capabilities and capacities. Currently, we are then thinking, we have a 10-year strategic roadmap, which we formulated before the rush for energy transition became topical. That 10-year strategic roadmap, we have decided to say, okay, let us revisit it and align it very much with the government commitment with regards to energy transition. What else can we do? And I think that provides opportunity to address the issues by the younger ones to say there needs to look at it. How do we bring it home? What programs do we design to give them confidence that whatever transition there is a role for the future generation to fit into that transition program. So, supply chain development, commercial ventures partnership in 26 states, Abuja, and development of industrial park, enhancement of our human capacity development program with about 13 million training man-hours so far delivered, and $500 million intervention funds covering manufacturing, asset acquisition, women in oil and gas, working capital, research and development. Lastly, let me use this opportunity to highlight that while I agree that there is need to improve on the negative impact of energy use on the environment, it is important to avoid setting deadlines that threatens global energy security. And I think that has been highlighted very much by Bala and other speakers. Let me rest my case for that.
Thank you very much.
The Executive Secretary was on an exhibition tour with some of the government functionaries.
NCDMB, our focus has been to utilize that as our energy transition initiative. We have what we call the new energy frontier. behind us. I'm sure you have seen.
Of Council for the support by your team. NCDMB is the government agency responsible for regulating compliance with Nigerian content, local content in the oil and gas industry. The act was signed in 2010 April. As of 2010, Nigerian content performance was less than 5%. Today, 12 years after, we have moved the needle up to 46%. We are speaking about renewables, we are speaking about gas, we are speaking about transition. NCDMB's initiative in this regard includes one, our modular refinery initiative, our new energy frontier, and our partnerships with the various companies in respect of utilizing gas as a transition energy in this country. Thank you and God bless you.
That's your 1 minute, I guess.
Thank you very much. Next is Digi Connect.
Sorry?
Sorry, okay. Yes. Okay, please.
One of the paper presenters at the NICE 2022 edition from the NCDMB was ably represented by one of the directors of the board.
So what has been done in that space of sustainable energy? Is there the likelihood that energy supplies globally will be sustained in the absence of oil and gas? What I can tell you for sure is that the answer is a sure yes. Whether we like it or not, oil and gas will deplete. They are non-renewable sources of energy, and we know it. So if we like, we stay and speak all the business grammars around oil and gas. It will finish one day. If you like, we factor in climate change, as we are seeing the results today. If you like, factor it out, it will still finish. No matter what we do, there are certain things that must happen. Technology must change because human beings live. And you cannot predict what technology will bring. You cannot also predict what kind of diseases will come as an form of pandemics tomorrow. You cannot also stay here and control the economies of other nations because they are advancing and we're sitting down giving interpretations to all forms of energy. They're defining them. We're not engineers and scientists seated here, professionals. What is our contribution to be part of that sustainable energy? Because oil and gas will one day be obsolete. It's a challenge. And the earlier we think about it, the better it is for all of us. And so, we are ready to work with professionals in the industry, in the academia, and policy makers in government to bring about domestication of technology that will run on current energy resources, so that one day, when they stop bringing their internal combustion energies, we have to rely on our own internal combustion energy. That should be our dream. Our own jet engines, our own gas turbines. That is where the future for us should be, so that it will be easy for us to latch on to new forms of technology that will provide more sustainable energy for us tomorrow. Finally, I congratulate the organizers for putting together this event, and I hope that we will all leave here fulfilled and ready to walk the talk. So, the summary of my goodwill message is that let's stop sitting down, let's minimize the analysis, let's get up, continue to work, and do the right thing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
After all the work, there was an award ceremony to honor those that have done exceptionally well in the sector. One of the recipients of this award is the NCDMB. Take a look.
Thank you, NCDMB. And lastly, this social award is related to this company for their consistent support for SPE. They have also maintained the position of full service only, and the support has been demanding. If you see indigenous companies, most of the enemies apart from this company. You can get two companies.
First of all, it's a great moment for us at NCDMB to receive an award of recognition for the few things we've been doing to help grow local content in the oil and gas industry. And for me, especially receiving the award on behalf of the Executive Secretary, of course, that's kind of like one of the highest points in my life. It's an amazing, when you have that kind of beautiful plaque being presented to you, on behalf of the Executive Secretary and then the board. So it's an amazing award for me, an amazing moment for me. Currently, there's a lot that is being done within NCDMB. We have tried to push local content levels to above 42%. That's because we deliberately implement provisions of the Act. So going forward, we hope to commission a few projects. For instance, the Nogaps Park at Tenmealwan and Nogaps Park at Udupani, Cross River State. This is going to substantially add to local content levels of in the oil and gas industry. So these are some of the things in the immediate that I can remember that we'll be doing. Again, we also have some projects that have to do with our partnership with some companies, like the Dupont Energy Park that also will be commissioned this year, and all of that. So those ones definitely will add to local content levels. I think what I have to say is to trying to speak to Nigerians to change the discourse around energy transition, renewable energy, to focus on energy sustainability in the future, because that you have non-renewable energy does not guarantee your energy future. So while we discuss energy transition, we discuss renewable energy, we must also ensure that we are abreast with the recent technological advances, outside the shores of this country.
The 2022 Spe Naice edition, no doubt, has been a huge success, and it is hoped by the organizers that all lessons learned, the networking, the exchange of ideas, the technological innovations and creative solutions presented at this year's edition will definitely bring better results in the coming years.